Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories with your host. I was thinking, who am I? With your host, my name's Darren Clark, and I'm the host of Neurodiversity Stories. And why did I put Neurodiversity Stories on? Well, for the exact reason we have another amazing guest today. We've had incredible guests in the past, and the reason for this is purely to start sharing more people's stories around neurodiversity. This creates more awareness around the topic, and not just in the UK, we do this globally as well. So guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that participates in this Neurodiversity Stories. We're always looking for new guests. And I want to say a massive thank you again to Emma, who's our guest today, our previous guest. And again, the viewers that watch this. So please do introduce yourself. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We have, like I said, we have guests from all over the world: Argentina, America, Kenya, France. The list goes on. So guys, today we have a phenomenal guest. We have Emma Downer, who is the director of DIY with Emma, and she's also a life coach. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have her on here. I know how incredibly busy she is. I'm a massive fan of watching the DIY tips. I must say, and Emma probably won't like this, I'm not massively great at DIY. I think my toolbox consists of no nails and other people's telephone numbers, but I hope she won't hold this against me. But guys, we're here to talk about neurodiversity stories. We're also here to spread more awareness. And I want to say a massive thank you again to Touch, Type, Read and Spell, who are our sponsors. And I want to share it with you, this.
Hi, my name is Mark. No, that's David. I'm over here. Reading and writing have always been a struggle for me. Mom and Dad try to help with spelling, but the words never seem to stick. And I don't know why my teacher spends so much time on me. Maybe I'm just not that smart. David, what's up? That was the day he showed me something called Touch, Type, Read, and Spell. At first, I didn't think I could do it. But then when I tried it, I could. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was really learning something. Look at these lessons. I completed them all without any help. I was practicing every day at school, at home. I was typing. Then a funny thing happened. I thought I was just learning how to write on the computer, but it started to get easier for me to read and spell too. Homework and essays stopped being nightmares. Now I can sit down and write. Words are pretty cool, and they're not the only ones. Thanks to TTRS, I realized one simple thing. If you can't do something, it doesn't mean you're not good at it. You just need to find the way that works for you. Like I found the Touch, Type, Read, and Spell way.
So guys, Touch, Type, Read and Spell, all the details are in the bios and everything else. Please do check them out. Guys, I want to welcome Emma Downer, who's a director of DIY with Emma, also a life coach as well. Absolutely thrilled to have her onto the story. So guys, Emma says that I was 17 when I discovered I was dyslexic, but it wasn't until I was 28 and I met a dyslexic coach and fully appreciated being dyslexic as part of who I am. Being educated on dyslexia opened up an entirely different and better way of managing the way I work and how I exist in the world. Is now integrity in my work as a DIY educator and as a life coach, and I'm able to help others understand their own ways of working. We're going to dive into this. We're going to have an amazing conversation with Emma, and I'd like to welcome Emma. Good morning, Emma. How are you today?
Good morning. Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm having a great week, so it's good.
Oh, That's amazing, Emma. Thank you. I must say again, a massive thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come onto the stories. Emma, I follow the stuff that you do. I'm like I said before, I'm probably not the best DIY. I am learning in no sense. I know we're going to be talking about dyslexia and neurodiversity, and obviously what you do as well as a life coach. But it'd be amazing if you could just let the viewers know who you are and a little bit about you. That'd be amazing.
Sure, I can do that. And there's nothing wrong with no nails. If it works, then use it.
Thank you. I thought when I said that, I was thinking, oh my goodness, should I? You know, in your brain, you say something and you think, did I say that out loud?
I mean, yeah, I do know that all the time. So yeah, I'm Emma. I'm a DIY educator, and I started doing this about 3 years ago. But I have up until very recently been also working in my other life as a management consultant, and decided to take a bit of a leap this year and give that up and become a full-time DIY educator, just because I love it and it makes me feel really inspired. And I think that's a great thing to do with your time if you're feeling inspired by it.
No, absolutely. and do you find that with helping people? I mean, I can see from the stuff you do, it's always that it's kind of your desire to continue helping and teaching and learning, and that's the kind of the vibe that I definitely get from yourself, depending on whether it's to do with neurodiversity and dyslexia, but like I said, the DIY element of it as well. Do you feel that's kind of that's your passion?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with self-development and professional development and things like that. And I think when people learn things about themselves that help them to do their work better or easier, I think that's great, because they get a lot more out of what they're doing. And so often people have enormous abilities to be able to do things, but they don't realize. And this with DIY comes up all the time for me, where somebody might send me a message and say, oh, thanks so much for your videos. I picked up a drill for the first time this week because of you. And I'm like, it's not because of me. They were always able to do this. They just needed to have somebody tell them, by the way, you could do this if you wanted to. And yeah, that's why I do it, because I love that.
No, absolutely. But I think if we take say neurodiversity, you take dyslexia, and we always talk about maybe the kind of the lack of confidence in something. So it could be could stem from school, the ability to not have that confidence with that belief in themselves. And I really do feel with DIY, for instance, you do need a lot of confidence, because the proof is in the pudding. If you do a good job, you actually see your results there and then. So I guess that confidence in, like I said, even picking up a drill. I mean, that's, it's not just picking up a drill. It's knowing, the power of the drill and what to do with the drill and what you're doing. So it does stem. There is a confidence element there.
Absolutely. And, they sort of say empowerment comes from proving to yourself that you can do something. And it's so compelling to be able to do something and say, oh, I actually thought I couldn't do that, and then I tried it and I could. Wow, what else am I capable of if I can do this thing that I never thought I could do? And DIY is an interesting one, because it's not something that is typically taught in schools. It's something that is sort of relied upon our caregivers to teach us, and we might not have caregivers who are particularly practical or are good at teaching, or and so you find a lot of people reach a certain stage, and that might be, for example, buying a house. They might need to maintain it, and they say to themselves, I have no skills to do this. When was I supposed to have learned how to manage a home or how to fix things? And for a lot of people, there aren't even any emulatable skills. There's nothing that they can look at and say, well, I've done something similar before that looked a bit like this, so I'll just do that and see if that works out. Some people just have no emulatable skills at all to even work from.
Yeah. So if we can go back to kind of your so it's dyslexia. That were you diagnosed? Did you go down the route kind of the diagnosis, or is there the kind of the traits and there's dyslexia? How did it first, and what kind of age were you aware of it, Emma? Don't mind sharing.
Well, I'm smiling to myself because how I first came about finding out I was dyslexic is a bit of an embarrassing story for me.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you anyway.
Only if you want to share.
I think it'll become apparent why I'm embarrassed by this now. But I was first aware of dyslexia when I was at college. So I would have been about 17, and I found out that people that were dyslexic were given more time in exams. Now, I was having an exceptionally hard time with exams. The actual content of the exam was fine, but what I was experiencing was that it would take me such a long time to read and comprehend the question that I didn't actually have time to answer the question. And another thing that was particularly difficult was when you were marked upon spelling and grammar and structure, I would spend an enormous amount of time delivering over the spelling of a particular word. Like the word necessary, I don't understand why it's got so many C's and so many S's, and it doesn't sound as it's...
It couldn't be any more unnecessary. Is it part of the pun? But yeah,
we agree.
I do always find that, with words. But do you find that, Emma, sorry to interject, with the actual words, we can learn it, know exactly how to spell it, a couple of seconds later, come back, still gone. It's that retention of it just does not stick. And I guess in school, it was those elements of, well, I've told you this is how you spell it, this is how you do. But that short-term memory or that block, it just eliminates, like you've never seen that word before.
Yes, exactly. And the way that I try to explain to people around me why that happens for me is I use something that I can do to demonstrate it. So spatial awareness is something I've always been really good at. So if you and me took a walk to Scotland today, I'd be able to do the same walk tomorrow without looking at a map. Wow. Because I've already been there and I recognize every twist and turn that we took, and I would just follow the same path. The path would be obvious to me. And I know that this is one of my exceptional skills because other people can't do that. And that's something that is almost weird. I'm like, how can you not do this? It's so obvious. It's so obvious. You just go the way that you went yesterday. In the same way that somebody might say to me, how can you not spell necessary when you have spelt it so many times before? And it's like, there's just a gap perhaps where that should be.
I'd be really interested, if anyone in the comments knows why. I know we have a lot of kind of professors and a lot of people kind of, really kind of delve into this, but or if Emma, I'm not asking, for me, I always think to myself, well, why don't I know how to spell this word, and why is there such a block? And again, it's a block on so many things, but other things, absolutely, my spatial awareness and remembering certain things, I can remember if I saw someone and then 4 years later, I would remember what coat they wore or jumper they had on, or if they had something in their hair. The name might escape me, but I can remember those kind of things. But necessary, or and getting the I in the there and the E in the R and things like this is just, so it's almost like it teases you with things you can do and things you excel in and things you can't.
Yeah, exactly. I find it really fascinating. So if anyone does know that, I'd love to.
Just throw it out there. So you're in school and were you given extra time, Emma? Or
so after finding out this information that people that were dyslexic were given more time, I hatched a plan. And my plan was this, in my 17-year-old wisdom. I thought, well, I'll go and see the educational psychologist. And because I know it will take me a long time to process the question, I'll probably do quite bad in the test that they give me. They might mistake that as dyslexia, and they might think that I'm dyslexic. And if they think I'm dyslexic, I'll get more time in exams. At no point did it occur to me that the reason I was having trouble with exams was because I was dyslexic. Wow. So I walked out of that test going, sure feel Ben.
Like a little kind of evil plan.
Exactly. And so I had this report and I was able to get more time in exams, and I excelled so much more when I was given the time to fully comprehend, in the format that was given to me, which is, written word. I was able to excel really well. And it was years and years later that I couldn't tell you exactly when, but I had a moment where I was like, hold up, wait a second. Could I actually be dyslexic? Maybe this is why, and I'm reading through all the report and I'm like, oh yeah, I do have a problem with that. And actually that thing is quite difficult. Perhaps the educational psychologist who is, very intelligent and clever actually just assessed me appropriately based upon how my mind works. So that's why I find that story a bit embarrassing, because
that evil plan. But I guess we kind of hear the terminology with dyslexia, that out of box thinking, and I guess that we think about out of box thinking as if we then instigate it, but sometimes we're always doing these things subconsciously. So maybe subconsciously there was an element of thinking, well, actually I do need a little bit of time, but the creativity and the thought behind it was actually, how do I there is the problem that I'm just not going to be able to get this done within that time. However, so how do I find a way around it? And you did, and you succeeded. So little did you know that there was an underlying kind of another reason behind it, why you were thinking in that way.
Exactly. And I think problem solving has always been something that I've really excelled at, finding something which is a problem and coming up with an idea that nobody else has thought of. And I remember one of my earliest problems that I had was when I was about 9 years old. The problem I had was that I didn't have enough pocket money. I'd get paid £1 a week to clean my house from my parents, and I would spend that on sweets or what have you. But I wanted more money to spend on sweets. And so to solve this problem, I took a bucket from underneath my kitchen sink in my parents' house, and I snuck out of the house without my parents' knowledge. I don't think they even know to this day, but I took this bucket and I walked around the local streets where people had cars parked, and I would go and knock on their door and I would say, can I wash your car? And you can pay me as much as you think is appropriate, depending on how well you think I've done. Okay. And I made quite a tiny sum from this job. It's not surprising to me that I've ended up becoming an entrepreneur, because this was kind of my mindset growing up, is I've got a problem, I need more money, how am I going to solve this? And I actually found that I was getting quite a lot of work doing this, sneaking out of the house with this bucket at age 9.
Were you still sneaking out at this point?
Yeah, well, my parents, luckily my parents never discovered me missing, because I'm sure they would have been very panicked to discover I wasn't in the house. Where had I gone? And at one point I was getting such a lot of work that I invited my friends to come and do it with me.
Wow, so you had staff. You outsourced.
I didn't think she was as good as me though, so I actually paid her less than I paid myself. So I just.
But what age were you then, Emma? If you don't mind me asking, were you still?
Yeah. So I would have been about 9, because I was still at junior school.
Incredible. That's incredible. Do you know what and we'll come on to kind of your entrepreneurial side of it, because I'm really kind of interested in the journey and the path you take. But it is really that entrepreneurial, because it's also about that growth as well, because you're thinking, well, actually, I'm getting on this work, and then you would think, well, actually, tunnel vision. I'm going to do all this and I can make more money. Then you start thinking, well, actually, I need some more help, and then I can then make more money, but with other people. So at 9 years old, that way of thinking is very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, it was already there. It was already there then. I already have a great understanding of capitalism, it seems, at age 9.
I love the elements of the young kind of entrepreneurial journeys and stories. I've always I always remember when there was where I grew up, there was a big hill, and when it snowed, I'd see all the people coming down the hill and kind of enjoying themselves doing sledging, and I just remember literally getting loads of like urns and flasks, and then put them on like a little pasting table. I think I was about a 10 or 11 back then. And when they come down the hill, I would sell them hot chocolates. And it's just all these kind of, these things where you think, well, actually, there's an opportunity there. I can capitalize on this, but equally, it's very entrepreneurial. So I take my hat off to Emma.
Thank you. And I think it's so important to recognize as well that people who do think in this way, we benefit as a society from people that think like this. And I've just been reading a book called Neuro Tribes. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's by Steve Silberman, I think is his name. And it's a book that focuses on the history of autism, and it talks about different notable figures in history as far back as the 1700s.
Wow.
And it talks about particular people, and it doesn't go as far to sort of make a retrospective diagnosis of these people, but it describes their character and it describes how they were perceived by others. And as you go through the book, you're sort of left feeling, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that person was autistic based on the way that they're presenting to the world. But
yes,
a lot of the people they chose for this book are people that have contributed enormous things, particularly in the areas science and philosophy, for the world.
yes.
And imagine if we weren't benefiting from the exceptional skills that people offer, and that does happen. We're not able to access all of the skills that different people have to offer because in particularly organizations aren't necessarily set up to benefit and to allow people to thrive in the way that we could.
I couldn't agree with you more, Emma. And I work with quite a few incredible organizations, very large organizations, and then some smaller organizations, and they are doing incredible work. But like you said, as a whole, the structure is sadly set out, and no fault to some people in that way, shape, or form, but the structure is set out to the recruitment process, like and I've said this on stories before, the recruitment process, the interview process, the assessment, the tests, we tend to lose people throughout that kind of that recruitment journey, which could really be fantastic and flourish within the company and add some great things, not just to the company, but to the world as well. So And I what you're mentioning as well, Emma, I've seen that firsthand a lot of the time.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And I actually read a really great article by someone called. I wrote down her name, so I'm gonna.
Please do, yeah. Honestly, whatever you can do to share.
I do like my notes. If you watch the film Memento. Yes. The main character has short-term memory loss. So what he experiences is that if he doesn't write down the thing that he's trying to remember in the moment, within 5 or 10 minutes, he'll forget it.
Yeah.
I relate to that character. If it's not written in my diary, it's not going to happen. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no. I completely agree. I'm always a big fan of. My office everywhere I go is just straps of paper where I've just written something down. If I had a bit more order, to do this. But yeah, please do, Emma. If you could tell us who. But that film's great, by the way.
Yeah, it is great, and I agree with you about the notes. I probably should buy shares and Post-its because I've just got an entire.
It's like the beautiful mind. It's just all these random things, and you what was that for? Oh, I don't know.
I mean, I don't remember what they mean, but
I need a note for the note for the note for the note for the note.
Oh, it's so true. It's funny. So the person's name is Hannah Naima McCloskey. I think I've probably not pronounced that right, but I've given it a go. And she's the CEO of a non-profit organization that works with organizations. And she wrote this article called Stop Asking Minority Groups to Defend Their Right to Diversity. And it's just this whole idea that if an organization is focusing on, okay, so let's develop a business case for diversity to prove that it's worthwhile for the business, you're almost looking at it the wrong way. If you take it as given that we absolutely all benefit from having diverse organizations as truth, you can then move on from that and actually start making some beneficial change. And quite often the business cases, because I've experienced this in my own career, the business cases that people ask you to write are often requested from minority groups who are already marginalized and are asked to prove that they are, beneficial or worthwhile or bringing profit to an organization. And I really loved her article, so I wanted to mention it.
Please do, and if we will put these links in the comments, I'd be really interested to read not only the article but the book on that as well. I have heard this and before, and how does it affect the bottom line is the phrase that I hear it a lot. Yes, we could maybe bring in training in this, but we've got to kind of show to the main kind of head office or the organization, the people that make these decisions, how it will ultimately help the bottom line. And I'm thinking, well, if you don't have these people and looking after the organization, the bottom line is the least of the things that you need to worry about. But I find as well with regards to, say, if we take dyslexia, and I'm not saying all organizations like this, but in some aspects, there's so much more to be done, so much more education. And I just find, we tend to think about, if you take Dyslexia Awareness Week in October, which is just, I'm never too sure whether it's a week or a month. Sometimes we celebrate for the month, sometimes we celebrate for the week. But genuinely, it's almost like an organization will reach out and go, okay, so Dyslexia Awareness this month, who do we know that's dyslexic? What organization can we help? Let's pull them in. And then come November, it's, okay, who can we speak to about this? December, let's speak about this. But once you make these conversations and you start talking to your staff about them, you can't just end it with just 1 month or 1 week.
I very much agree, and I always say to people when I talk to people about neurodiversity, I say there's 2 jobs for the neurodiverse person. The first one is to continue to navigate an environment that wasn't built for them every single day of their life. And the second is consistent education of other people. For example, every time I go into a new office where I use my dictation software, I find it an incredibly stressful experience because I'm about to do something that people will find very unusual. And they will ask me questions about it. And I love that people are interested, and I love that they ask questions and that they're curious, but it's also another stressful thing to have to do. So quite often, if I'm in a new office, I will announce, and I'll be like, if it looks like I'm talking to my computer like a bit of a weirdo, that's because I am. And I don't want to say that because I don't think I am a weirdo. I think it's normal. I'm just trying to anticipate I'm trying to reduce the discomfort that I'm going to feel the moment that I go, "Dear Jason, comma, new line," and everybody looks because they're like, "What is she doing?" Because I just don't like.
I completely get it, and you wouldn't say that if someone was to pick up their glasses and put them on, and then look at the screen, and you'd be, it's just these kind of, but it's that sense of feeling that you get beforehand. So it's almost that prejudge. Okay, so I've experienced this before where people are curious to what's going on, and the fact that you have to kind of almost stand up and announce it, kind of that you're going to be using these because you're empathetic about how they're going to feel, because you're thinking, well, they may be thinking this, and then you're protecting yourself by thinking so before you even doing the task, your mind it's just racing with so many different things of trying to firefight all of these different things.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I've tried to do in the past to try and reduce my discomfort starting with a new team is to ask any line manager that I've got, can you tell me a bit about people that you've worked with before? Have you worked with anybody who's neurodiverse before? And usually how they answer that tells me how much I might need to tell them about myself. And I really sort of encourage this idea of asking anybody who you work with how they like to work and how they work best. And, with any of my staff, I'll say to them, are there any adjustments that would be useful for you in this environment to make working with me easier or more successful? Because everybody benefits from that sort of question. And it also makes it a bit easier for people who might have to ask for things that others perceive as being a bit unusual. It can make them feel a bit more comfortable. And just remembering a particular scenario with an old line manager where I sort of get into this habit of almost like anticipating what kind of biases people might have and trying to address them before it happens to try and reduce my own discomfort. So an example would be, I sat down with this line manager and I said, if I am sat at my desk and I've been staring into space for 30 minutes and it looks like I'm doing nothing, I can assure you that I'm doing my best work, because the way that I process information is to sit and work out the entire solution in my head first, and then it takes me 2 minutes to write it down. And so I have to almost explain that there's a difference between looking busy and being busy, and that's how I work. So if you see that, then don't worry, I'm working very hard. And with this particular manager, I recall talking to them about speed reading. They came to me with this activity and they said, could you please read this report and summarize the main points? And I said, absolutely, I can do that for you, no problem. Just so you know, because I'm dyslexic and because skim reading is something that doesn't come naturally to me, this task will take me this amount of time to complete. And I'm happy to do it. And to give you another option, I could assign this task to X person and take on a portion of their work instead, because I know that they'll be able to do this faster. What would you like me to do with this? And they said, totally understood, happy for it to take as long as you say, continue. And so I sort of felt quite heard at this point and quite understood. And something they said next was quite good intentioned, but had made me feel that I hadn't actually been heard, which was, you do know, though, that you could get better at speed reading if you tried. And it's just one of the most frustrating things for somebody who's neurodiverse or got any sort of disability to say, well, you could, if you tried a little bit harder, you could do it, couldn't you? Wow. And the thing is, she's not wrong. She's right. I could reasonably get better at it. I wouldn't choose to focus my energy there. And here's why. I had a dyslexia coach about 5 or 6 years ago, somebody named Brendan. Hopefully he might even be watching, because I think I might have even seen your post originally through. Completely changed my life, completely changed the way that I look at dyslexia. So I hope he knows how beneficial those sessions were for me. And what he explained to me was, and hopefully I don't completely ruin his beautiful explanation, was that if you've got a line that, say this line is average, the middle line is average, and what we see with neurotypical people is that on average they tend to flow with their skill set around that average. They might be pretty good at some things, not so good at other things, but they tend to sit more around this average line. And then what we see more so with neurodiverse people, is that line or that wave is a lot larger. So neurodiverse people will be exceptionally good at some things and will find other things exceptionally hard. And so if I take speed reading that I am really, really very bad at in comparison to what's considered average, if I focused on that all day, every day, and say I got better at it by 20%, I would be better at it by 20%, but I'd still be rubbish at it compared to the average.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So I wouldn't do that. If I've got a limited amount of time to learn something, I'm going to take something that I'm already excellent at, and I'm going to improve that by 20%, because then I'm an expert. I'm exceptional at something.
Emma, I could not agree with you more. And it, you know, focusing on those elements of what you are, and again, you know, we learn, you know, we're always continuously learning on, you know, where our skill settings sit. You know, as humans, we're always, you know, naturally learning. I always say, you know, I'm like a sponge I wake up like a sponge, always trying to absorb something new or something new experience or something else. And I'm still trying to find out what, you know, I know kind of what I like doing, what I kind of excel in, and I know what, you know, what I struggle. And a perfect example, I'm not very good at PowerPoint. Okay, so and there is a story behind this. Really, great, thanks for sharing. But with the PowerPoint side, but a lot of when I was in the corporate side, a lot of when I was going for promotion or senior management or anything else, the statistics that they wanted, you know, given when you were giving the presentation was always PowerPoint, and it always had to be, you know, these big, and I love PowerPoint. I think they're great, but it's not my forte. So when I was given the task to get, you know, to go for a promotion, I think it was store manager or something, and I had to do this presentation, I knew that if I learned PowerPoint and had to spend all my time making sure this amazing PowerPoint was fantastic, that would take up all my time of what I need to do to present the case of why I should get that promotion. And I always remember there was 5 of us that went for this promotion. 4 of them did, 10 of us, sorry. 9 of them did the PowerPoint. I did childlike drawings on a flip chart. But it was so different, and it was mocked at the time. And I think these, you know, these people who were sat in front of me really, I didn't know, quite angry at the start because they thought I was making a mockery of the whole thing. But 3 pages in, they started to get it, because, you know, I could point to a truck and I could talk about delivery turnaround time. I can talk about, you know, everything, you know, logistics and everything else, but just by seeing the picture. And I didn't need a PowerPoint. But because it was so different, and, you know, they all said you had, you know, you were very confident to do this. I'm not going to say what their words were, but they said you're very confident to do this. You know, I got the position just by, and you know, Emma, they said afterwards, they said, you know, why did you do that? That would have took, you know, a lot of confidence to, you know, to do something like that. And I said, that's just the way I learn. That's, you know, and I said exactly like you said, Emma, if I spent all my time doing this and not that, my presentation would have been, you know, a lot different. Would I have got the job? I don't know, but it is those different way of working.
Yeah, I always say neurodiverse people are a package deal. You can't expect to benefit from exceptional skills that people bring without recognizing that there's going to be areas that they're not especially good at, and those things can always be contracted out to somebody else. It's not a problem. And it just reminded me of this statistic that completely blows my mind. If you take 36 characteristics of a person, so imagine how often they lie, their eye color, their ability to spell. And if we agree that what society considers normal is sort of one standard deviation from an average of society, for any individual to be normal or average across all 36 characteristics, the likelihood of that happening is about 1 in a million. So it's actually really abnormal to be normal. And the reason I like this statistic is because what that tells us is that normal doesn't exist. And we set up as a society expectations of what normal should be. And if you deviate from that, you're abnormal, which makes no sense because normal doesn't exist.
That blows my mind, Emma. That absolutely blows my mind. And you are so right on this. I mean, what is normal? We talk about normal in its entirety. You know, that's not normal. This, you know, it's a phrase which is continuously used on a daily basis. You know, you know, but that, that analogy and those statistics on that just absolutely blows my mind. I'm going to just bring in, so Ruth Fenton, she said, wow, what a great way of explaining skills. Focus on what you are great at. And Torgai, I apologize. I always get your surname wrong. I do apologize. Incredible person. The lines part was excellent. We'll use the hash out of it. So I think that basically the synopsis of that was your analogy around the line side of it was incredible. So Emma, how did you get, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get into the life coaching side of it? Was it through the DIY element of it? Is it because you've always been kind of creative and you've always the teaching element of it? How did that first kind of start?
I think this first started probably almost a decade ago now. When I first started in my career, I got a mentor, and it was the first time I'd ever experienced a sort of mentor-mentee relationship. And I was like, wow, this is so helpful. And this person really helped me in so many different ways. And I started to realize how beneficial that was. So I started to coach people. Very informally. People would come and ask me questions and be like, I'm stuck on this problem. And I would sort of, I'd look up what good coaching questions were to ask them back, because what I wanted to do was say, that's a terrible idea, don't do that, I would do this, which is,
yeah,
that's what I really wanted to do. But, not,
it's like, how do I do this? Okay.
So I started to learn different skills of how to ask people questions that helps them get to their own resolve. And this is the case across everything that I do in DIY as well, because people already have it within themselves to do these things. They just need a little bit of signposting, or even just a bit of encouragement or representation. And that 75% of my audience are women. And that doesn't surprise me too much, because I am acting in as a sort of role model, showing them, by the way, you can both be a DIYer or a renovator or work in construction and be a woman, which sounds ridiculous that people might not know that you could be both. But in society, it's not a narrative that we're told very often. And so, that helps people go, oh, I could do that. And sometimes that's all they need to be able to move their life forward.
Absolutely. I think it is that element, and you've proven it time and time again, Emma, in that element of, it's almost asking that question, well, why can't I do that? And then someone really kind of help and say, well, actually you can. And sometimes it's those, the kind of light bulb moments. Well, of course you can, why not? And those really help. But the confidence element must be, huge. I know from doing, a lot of DIY, a lot of DIY recently has improved my confidence in so many different ways, and it really does it. I mean, it brings confidence in so many other areas. If you start cooking, you do one dish, and then you can do 2 dish and 3 dish. If you can do, the DIY, it's just that element of confidence to have that, and the skill element is second to none.
Exactly as you've just described it is how I think a lot of people go through this process. If you start where you're comfortable, you can go from there. So often people say to me, oh, I could never imagine renovating my basement. How did you get to this point? That looks so hard. And I always say I started with a shelf. I didn't know how to put up a shelf a few years ago. I learned how to do that. And from there, I did something else. I did some tiling. I did some, and it's like, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to see how it goes. I might not get it right first time. And there's this really weird culture in DIY of, if you're not getting it right first time, you're doing it wrong. Don't even try if you're not going to get it right first time, which is so crazy, because everybody has learned these skills at some point. And there's such a cognitive dissonance there with people going, get it right first time. But I expect you to allow me to have learned this and got it wrong at some point.
I guess, you're absolutely right. It's almost, you can take that analogy into so many different things. I take the gym, for instance. When you go to the gym and there's people that's been there for ages, and you've got kind of the weight section and people are doing this and everyone knows how to use the machine. And, I'm still struggling with the pin to try and move the weights over, or adjusting the chair. So I'm kind of sat a little bit wrong. It's all these different things, but it's once you've done that and you feel confident, just starting, at that level, and then, giving yourself a break and thinking, I'm not saying that you're now going to be able to build a house, from day one, but it's just something that you can kind of start adding the skills. And like I said, it's not the actual physical doing it that gives you the benefits. It's that confidence to, it's quite empowering, I guess.
I think that's a great analogy. And I think it's just like that. It's exactly like going to the gym and learning those skills.
So Emma, we're coming up to our allotted time. I told you these shows go far too fast, and I could talk to you for all day. And you talk about notes as well. I haven't even covered half the stuff we were going to.
Loads of thoughts.
But I am saying to the guests that do want to come back to, we are going to be doing kind of asking guests to come back to share more on different topics as well. But how can people reach you if to connect with you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. LinkedIn's always good. If you've found this talk through there, you've probably already got me linked on that. And probably also TikTok, because that's where I do a lot of my DIY social media presence. Currently got 50,000 followers, which feels really weird and embarrassing to say that. Like, almost shy about it. Like, all these people what I'm doing, and I find that really weird.
You say that, you just go, yeah, I've just got 50,000. Wow, that's incredible. That you're not just the followers, but that so many people are seeing your the talent and the skills, and you're helping so many people. So that's incredible.
Yeah, I feel really glad.
Have you been on TikTok? I mean, it's because it's probably one of the areas that I'm not very strong on, if I'm honest. TikTok but I love watching it.
Yeah, well, I joined sort of March last year at the start of lockdown. A lot of millennials did. It's kind of a bit of a funny cliche. Yeah. Like, you're a millennial. Oh, you must have joined TikTok in March 2020.
like that. That's you just have to. Oh, you're a millennial. Why aren't you? What's your account?
Exactly. And I have eventually got to this point, not just through starting in March. I was running a blog and have been for about 5 years, and I would write a blog, but it would take me like a month to actually write something because it doesn't come naturally to me at all. But making videos does come very naturally to me, so I produce stuff every day, and so that kind of took off, I think, probably because it was quite natural to me, and I was able to produce quite a lot of content to help people and answer questions, etc.
Well, so people can definitely follow you on TikTok, link up with you on LinkedIn as well. And what we'll do is we'll put the books and the article that we mentioned, if we're able to to put those into the comments as well, because I'm be really intrigued to look into those as well. But Emma, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the Neurodiversity Stories show. I hope you have an amazing rest of the Friday and a fantastic weekend. And like I said, thank you so much again for your time. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you.
Inviting me.
So guys, that was Emma. I hope you enjoyed that just as much as I did. Emma's doing incredible work. Please do follow her. Wow, the following that she has on TikTok is just insane. I have watched some of the videos that she's done, and they are really helpful. And I'm sure you'll get a lot from them, from connecting with them. Guys, that's another Neurodiversity Stories done. We will be back next. Take care, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.